The Spanish flu was not a virus. What if one of the deadliest pandemics in history, the 1918 Spanish flu that killed 50 million people worldwide, is still at the center of a viral conspiracy theory over 100 years later? Join us as we investigate how misinformation spreads across centuries, why people believe it, and what this reveals about human psychology in the age of information. Breaking down a century of misinformation. Our project looks at the conspiracy theory that claims the 1918 Spanish flu wasn't actually caused by a virus, but by government experiments or cover-ups. We wanted to understand how misinformation like this can last for over a century. The purpose of our investigation: we explored the tools that keep misinformation alive, things like repetition, authority bias, and now social media. We also looked at the psychology behind why people find these theories so believable or interesting. This really connects to today because misinformation spreads online the same way false claims did in 1918, just faster. Social media algorithms keep pushing engaging content, even if it's wrong, which makes media literacy more important than ever. By studying how misinformation spreads in the past, we can better recognize and stop it in our digital world today. The conspiracy theory explained. This theory argues that the 1918 pandemic wasn't caused by the influenza virus at all. Instead, it blames experimental vaccines or even aspirin poisoning as the real cause of millions of deaths. Those who believed in this theory often point fingers at the U.S. government, the military, and early pharmaceutical companies, accusing them of covering up the truth to protect themselves. The main idea behind the motive is that authorities wanted to protect their reputation and profits during World War I. The story suggests they were hiding failed or harmful medical experiments. What makes this conspiracy powerful is that it gives people someone to blame for a tragic event. It satisfies a psychological need to make sense of chaos and find accountability. Scientific research confirms the 1918 pandemic was caused by the H1N1 influenza virus, proven through preserved tissue samples and historical evidence. The conspiracy persists because it fulfills human needs to find meaning, control, and someone to blame during the chaos.
Tool 1. Dismissing contradictory evidence. How it works. Conspiracy believers systematically reject facts that don't fit their worldview, no matter how strong the evidence. This psychological tool allows them to maintain their beliefs despite overwhelming contradictory data. The Spanish flu example. Even when scientists extracted the actual H1N1 virus from preserved tissue samples, providing direct physical proof, believers dismiss it as government propaganda or manufactured evidence. Any fact that contradicts the conspiracy gets labeled as part of the cover-up. The aspirin twist. Starko's 2009 study showed some patients may have worsened symptoms from high aspirin doses prescribed at the time. Conspiracists seized on this detail while ignoring that it didn't cause the pandemic. Just a perfect example of cherry-picked evidence. Additional example of dismissal in action. In November of 2023, a study at McMaster University was held in order to properly analyze the conditions of the deceased victim's bone structure in order to determine certain contributing factors towards their death. A long-held belief that the Spanish flu disproportionately impacted healthy young adults fueled conspiracy theories, suggesting some form of nefarious work at play. However, the study at McMaster disproves this. Researchers found that the victims who were most susceptible to dying had exhibited signs of previous environmental, social, and nutritional stress, disproving the idea of a targeted and orchestrated biological attack on the healthy. Several conspiracy theorists believe that the study had altered research in order to appeal to an already established narrative, despite evidence being backed by other additional institutions, such as the University of Colorado Boulder.
Cavalier attitude towards facts. Confidence over credibility. People share false information with absolute certainty, as if passion and conviction prove truth. You've seen the post. The Spanish flu wasn't real. They poisoned soldiers with vaccines, stated boldly with zero sources. Oxford's 2000 research proved the 1918 pathology matched modern flu strains perfectly. But conspiracy promoters don't care. They act like confidence equals credibility, and emotional appeals trump scientific proof. Misinformation occurs because of this disregard for the truth, assuming that they don't want you to know the truth. Each adjustment serves as additional proof of the conspiracy.
The final tool we're going to be using is psychological analysis, focusing on the concept of cognitive dissonance. Now, this concept describes the mental discomfort people feel when their beliefs conflict with new information. To ease that discomfort, people often reject or reshape facts so they don't have to challenge what they already believe. During the 1918 Spanish flu, people were surrounded by uncertainty and fear. The world had just come out of World War I, and science was still developing during this time. For many, it was difficult to accept that something invisible like a virus could cause so much death and chaos. So instead, some people believed vaccines or government experiments were to blame. As Laura Spinney explains, limited scientific understanding and a deep mistrust of authority made misinformation spread so quickly. Believing that vaccines caused the flu gave people a sense of control in a situation where everything felt so unpredictable. Psychologists Jolly and Douglas found that the same pattern still happens today. When people feel powerless or anxious, they turn to conspiracies that make them feel safer and more certain. The Spanish flu vaccine theory is a clear example of this, showing how fear and confusion can push people to reject scientific truth in favor of a more comforting explanation.
From rumor to algorithm. In 1918, misinformation spread through rumors and newspapers, limited by censorship and lack of science. Today, it spreads through algorithms, but the psychology behind it hasn't changed. Only the technology has.
Our best defense. Question critically. Don't accept claims at face value, especially when they're stated with absolute certainty but no sources. Verify evidence. Look for multiple credible sources, peer-reviewed research, and expert consensus before believing extraordinary claims. Think scientifically. Understand that science builds knowledge through testing, evidence, and peer review, not through certainty and passion. Key takeaways. Patterns repeat. The same misinformation tactics used in 1918 are amplified today through modern technology. Understanding historical patterns help us recognize contemporary manipulation. Psychology matters. Conspiracy theories aren't just about facts, they're about fear, control, and the human need for meaning. Cognitive dissonance explains why evidence alone rarely changes minds. Media literacy is essential. In an age where algorithms amplify misinformation, critical thinking skills are more important than ever. We must teach students to question sources and verify claims.